Welcome to the Hogsty. Pleased to be with you on another Victory Sunday as the Redskins play a game of Connect 3 with their wins. Today was the Beltway beatdown, and we've got the scoop. Don't go away. The recap's coming up next.
Welcome to the Hogsty with your crew, Alex Zeese, Steve Thomas, and Robbie Duncan. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
And we're back with you, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Sean. Happy to be with you. I got Mr. Steve Thomas.
I see you're getting some alliteration in your intros now. I like that. You're getting creative. It's getting creative in a literary sense. Seems to me.
That's right. Should have been an English major. What do you think, Mr. Robbie Duncan? How you doing on this Victory Sunday?
Oh, it's always good after a win, no matter how ugly the game was.
Yeah, it was ugly.
Yeah, we definitely got to talk about that. So, where should we start off? I mean, first of all, let's all just be happy. This is another victory, and that means we've officially crossed that threshold, guys, with wins.
Yep, we're above 500 now.
Yeah.
Holla at us.
Yeah.
Good for us. So we're above 500. I don't know how many of us. I forget how many of us.
Well, we
predicted
needed
were
to
gonna
be. We all predicted, I think, in the game preview. Or in
Did
the,
we? I forgot.
Well, in the game preview, I think Robbie was the only one that predicted a victory. But I meant when we went back to predict the season results, we all thought we'd have a winning record at this point, and we need to because of the
there you
second,
go. Okay.
Yeah, because of the second half of the season. So it was even though it was an AFC team, it was actually a pretty big win in terms of schedule for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Ravens are a good team. It was not an easy game. Their crowd was into the game. They were loud for pretty much the entire game, and they did what they had to do to win.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where you guys want to lead off with this. I guess one of the things that jumped out to me about this game, big picture, was we had a continuation of running success.
I would not say that, but you're entitled to your opinion.
I know, that's why I kind of cautiously put it out there. A continuation of, I guess, the relative success that we've had. I mean, they had a better day, and we saw some we saw Mr. Kelly a couple times.
Would you allow me to disparage your notion with actual facts?
With statistics, of course, you can shit all over with statistics, Steve. You always do.
Okay.
But we'll get back to it. Go ahead.
All right.
We'll get back to it.
In spite of Sean's view that we had a good running day, in the first quarter we were actually 1 rush for 3 yards. At halftime we were 8 rushes for 17 yards. At the end of the game we were 20 for 60. So I mean that's, is that good? No, it's not.
But is it worse than our usual showing on the
No,
ground?
it's about the same. We averaged 3 yards a carry. Matt Jones was 14 for 31 yards. And if it hadn't been for that one long,
he had a couple
12-yard
critical first downs. He had, I think, two or three.
Yeah. I mean, he had the long of 12, and he had another rush of about 10 yards. Take those away, and it would have been pretty bad. But we did have a Robert Kelly sighting.
He looked good. He looked full of life.
Yeah, I think we
that
saw
one
more
run.
of kind of the same for Matt, which is, he runs high, he runs soft. If the hole is there, he can hit it. If the hole isn't there, he can't hit it. I thought was, but we did get some crucial first downs when it counted, from him. And so to that extent, that was good. We ran him on the 4th and 1, there in the fourth quarter, got stuffed.
We ran him on 2nd and long, too, towards the end of the game, which
on the
we
4th
need to
and
continue
1,
to see.
On the 4th and 1, he ran high again, and that's why he got stopped. If he would just get his pad level down, that would go a long way, but he doesn't seem to want to do that. But we did have a Robert Kelly sighting, and Robert and Kelly had a great run there, too. So we got some yardage when it counted, which was good, so we give him credit for that. But overall, it was kind of a poor running day on the ground. That was my thought.
Well, it was the same day. It was the average day on the ground.
It could have been better. We had some of those pretty nice runs. Rob Kelly got that nice one.
We're really dumbing down our expectations if we're okay with this as a running game. I mean 60 yards.
They're realistic
I'm not okay
expectations.
with it. I didn't think it was a terrible running game either. But Ravens are a stout defense. They're a stout run defense, and they what we got we earned. It wasn't garbage time draws like some of our running games used to be.
Yeah.
Well, let's continue to talk about offense then. I mean, do you want to hit us with any more depressing
Sure.
statistics before we move on with the show here, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, the running game was what was depressing in terms of numbers. The rest of the numbers are okay. Kirk was 29 for 41 attempts, 260 yards, one touchdown, one crazy interception play we need to talk about.
That sucked.
Yeah, sacked once, had a quarterback rating of 85.4. Jordan Reed, 8 receptions, 53 yards. Pierre Garçon, 5 receptions, 56 yards.
There you go.
Yeah, just a Pierre Garçon sighting. Sean Jackson was absent most of the game. He ended up with 3 receptions, 35 yards. Now, ESPN lists 7 targets for him, and I just, for the life of me, can't remember 7 targets for Deshaun. I don't know where they're getting at, but that was Chris Thompson had 4 receptions, and it goes down from there. Once again, we did spread the ball out pretty well. It's, we do seem to be very good at that.
Yeah.
How many times was Crowder targeted?
Crowder was targeted 3 times, 3 receptions, 3 targets.
Cool.
Yeah.
He had a good game.
Let's talk about how I pretty much nailed this game prediction-wise, didn't I? I
Yeah,
said
you did.
17-10
There you go.
Redskins.
You said
Oh,
we'd eke one.
nice.
You said we'd eke it out. Yeah, which we did.
Nice.
I
Nicely
would have
done.
been exact. I would have nailed it right on the head had we not missed the extra point.
Yeah, but for the extra point. Well, I mean, thank God for the special teams. But let's talk about how we think Kirk did. I thought Kirk was decent. Not great. He had some bad. I counted 4 bad passes today. But overall, he wasn't
Seems like a
terrible.
lot more. He was overthrown Deshaun. He was overthrown Jordan Reed.
Yeah, but I kind of lost track of it there at the end when the game finally got exciting. I kind of lost track of my stats. But point is, at least 4 bad passes. There might have been a couple more than that. He got several hits on him. Made the boneheaded interception there. On the Redskins into the field. It looked to me like that play. That play, first of all, bad decision. I think he did see the linebacker Mosley when he threw that ball. He just threw a bad ball. I think is more what happened. What do you think, Robbie?
That and Mosley. I mean, he pretty much jumped through the roof to get that interception. He made a hell of a play. This interception sucked, and you got to put some blame on Kirk for throwing it. But Mosley made a really good play as well.
No one's going to talk about it too because of what happened immediately.
Well, let's explain.
After.
Let's explain what happened in case the audience did not understand it.
And I want to say too that we were the victim of this last season, and I said that this was one of the rules that we were on the chopping block. That was on the chopping block. I'm sorry, with the NFL in the offseason. They didn't change it, and thank God they didn't because it helped us out this time. But yeah, I don't know if Robbie, you want to explain it, but. Basically, it was a fumble into the end zone, out of the end zone, which results in a turnover. Basically, an automatic change of possession.
So for
for
the statistical record, the record will stand as Kirk having thrown an interception, the Ravens having the ball, and then the Ravens fumbling the ball. That is how it will look for now and forever. It was incredibly good play by Mosley. I stand by my thought that it was kind of a bad decision, but then just Mosley fumbled it and crazy play into the end zone.
Yeah. What a dopey thing, Rob. Did you ever see anybody do something like that?
No.
You're playing to just serve it on up on the ground like that,
Deshaun Jackson has.
Just throw it down like that across the goal line.
He did kind of just throw it down, didn't he?
Yeah.
That was the play of the game. It really was. It turned the game around. It was.
We lose that game if he scores.
Yeah. Even if he had went down on the 1, they probably would have scored a touchdown. With the way the Ravens are running the ball, and we would have gotten the field goal that we got down at the other end of the field as a result of that. So that truly did save the game.
Yeah,
it did.
Crazy play.
Yeah, so I mean that was probably Kirk's. That was his worst moment of the game, obviously. Other than that, who scored on this team? Other than special teams, who's our lucky guy?
Well, who scored? Pierre Garçon had the touchdown.
That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. It was the one guy offensive, score, who didn't, other than kicker. Obviously. So I don't know. I don't know if you want to call that a great game. Jordan Reed didn't have the great game that he's been having, the past few weeks, but
It wasn't a great game all
You
around.
can't expect it every day.
We didn't expect we knew the Ravens were good defense. I had questioned in the game preview, if you guys remember, whether or not they were for real, considering the talent level they played. And I think the Ravens proved today that they are a serious, real elite level defense. We knew we weren't going to run the score up on them. We eked out a victory. And the bottom line is, look,
we said exploit the secondary on them, and that just didn't really happen. Frankly.
We tried, but
we tried our best.
I still find it amazing that he can overthrow, or anybody can overthrow Deshaun Jackson. I would rather him overthrow it than underthrow it, because you don't want to have a guy like Jackson have to slow down to catch it. I mean, that means the corner could get a good chance at picking the ball off, or
I'm honestly surprised at this point in time in the season that Kirk is overthrowing Deshaun like that, because he's done that more than once. And this is year 2 that they've been starters, and I'm surprised the communication between quarterback and receiver isn't really better at this point. Like we said, Kirk just isn't very good at the long ball. It's kind of the bottom line.
That's what I was going to say. I think you can just basically rule that he's just not accurate with the deep ball.
And he can't drive the ball downfield like good long ball throwers either. He kind of floats those passes a lot.
He's been particularly bad about it this year, though. I mean, we've seen better better from him in that department.
I mean,
previously.
If you want to see a flawless deep ball, go watch the Browns versus Patriots highlights from today. It's just Brady was throwing some deep balls, just perfect in stride, right in the breadbasket type thing.
See, I thought you were going to talk about Cody Kessler was great there for a minute.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no.
Charlie Whitehurst was playing that game.
Well, Kessler was in there at the beginning, I thought. But I don't know, who cares? But Tom,
Brady was a good stash for your fantasy team if you took him with the penalty. That was a good idea.
We knew that Tom Terrific was going to run the score up against the Browns, I think. But I just think, back to the Redskins, I just think we're never going to see that sort of play from Kirk at a great level. We just don't.
No, we haven't at all this year.
I do think that the Redskins are not using Deshaun Jackson appropriately in many cases, because we've said on this show many times, if you start grading out who are our elite players, and he's one of a handful we have, and we just allow the game plan to ignore him for huge stretches of the game. And today was a very good example. He just wasn't involved in the game until the very end. We just basically ignored him. Now, I'd love to see the All-22 film to see if he was just covered downfield or what. You can't really see that on the broadcast. And maybe that was the case. But I think the coaching staff needs to do a better job of getting a guy like Deshaun the ball somehow, some way, in my opinion.
This game was the biggest notice of that. But up to this point, I thought they've been doing pretty well at getting him the ball. I mean, how many catches did he have last game? I think he was like 4 or 5, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I mean, I think this was just maybe a game plan type thing. I mean, like you said, we have to look at the film again. But my inclination was that they were trying to take away Deshaun Jackson from this game and then just decided to live with, Jordan Reed and Pierre Garçon and Crowder and even Matt Jones from, just taking what they can get with that.
Yeah, and none of these guys on offense, had a banner day today. We did kind of enough to win. Thank God for special teams. Our special teams really came through. And I just like to I know we're not really on special teams while I'm thinking about it. What an amazing turnaround Jamison Crowder has made in a year as a punt reterner. I mean, last
that was
year,
a remarkable play today.
Well, last year he was awful. It was just atrocious. And this year he's become, we'll have to see how the stats play out at the end of this week, but he's certainly one of the top punt returners in the NFL right now. But I'm talking about by yardage gained and everything. And it was a great play. He was explosive on the touchdown. He was elusive. He made a couple good moves. It wasn't just all blocking and a gigantic running lane open there.
No, not at all. He did that himself,
Yeah, he did some of it himself, or a lot of it himself. So I applaud Jamison Crowder for, I don't know what he did, if he ate his Wheaties or what, but he's really turned into a weapon somehow on punt return.
He's starting to get some more separation, too. Like, a lot of times last year, he'd been catching the ball with guys right in his face, and he wouldn't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed like to me he had at least 5 yards to work with to make a move and get upfield to do something, and which really helps. He gives him more of a a lane to see, a better vision to make a cut and gain some yards.
Yeah, it seemed like he was more productive than he was for some reason. He only had three catches, 35 yards, but it seemed like he had a productive game and made a couple impact catches there.
Well, it's not a bad, average how that breaks down. I'm just saying the guy catches the targets he gets.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
and he makes moves, on special teams. I mean, hopefully we can find ways to continue to work him into the game plan. He's showing he can do good things.
Well, let's talk O-line, Robbie. What'd you see in the O-line this week?
I didn't see much push up front for the most part. There was one third and I think it was maybe fourth when they ran it for the first down with Matt Jones.
Yeah.
It was a really good block I saw from Sean Laval. He pulled. They ran power left and he pulled right up through the middle, opened the hole for Matt Jones to run through. But I mean, pass pro was pretty good. I thought.
Only one sack,
look
right?
at it again, but yeah, I thought they gave Kirk pretty much plenty of time that he needed. On the other side of the ball, though, our defensive line finally started to produce pressure too.
Yeah, they did. And we had more called blitzing plays this week than I think we have in a while.
How many sacks do we have today? I can only remember the one, but I think we had at least another. The one that they gave to Robbie, you might remember the guy. It looked like Murphy was the one in on the sack, but they gave it to somebody else. I forget who.
I think they gave it to Ziggy Hood.
They gave it to
Ziggy Hood, is who it was?
Yeah. We had 3 sacks, by the way, total.
3 sacks.
They gave Murphy and Garvin a half sack each. So Ziggy Hood had the 1 sack, and then Ryan Kerrigan had a sack.
Oh, it's that Garvin one. That's the one that I was thinking of.
The Ziggy Hood one was pretty clear. I thought that was a Ziggy Hood sack.
It was Ziggy Hood with Preston Smith on top of him. Some people may have thought that
a little Preston Smith garnish to that dish.
I did notice that the Suggs sack in the first quarter he just went through Sean Laval like he wasn't even there. If you notice that play, Laval had a bad rep. Against the Hall of Fame linebacker.
Yeah, you got Sean Laval trying to block a guy like Terrell Suggs. It's not gonna work out very well. I mean, that got schemed against him a couple weeks ago. I forgot who it was he was blocking. It was Olivier Vernon. Against the Giants, he had a play where he had to pass block against Vernon, and just it didn't work out very well. It's a bad matchup, really.
Which is why the Ravens move Suggs into the interior like that, because they know they can scheme them way into bad. I mean, look, it happens. Sometimes
he's good for one a game at least. I mean, Jesus, it's Suggs.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're not going to be perfect,
Yeah.
Even the 91 Redskins gave up 9 sacks, for God's sakes. I can't blame them too much.
There you go.
What do we think of the offensive game plan?
All right, before we jump into it, I think that I know what you're getting to. Their play calls on the 3rd and 1 and passing when they should have ran and all that stuff.
Right.
I think people kind of overblew that. I mean, you look at most of those plays, they were there. We just didn't execute. I thought they were good play calls. The one that he missed to Jordan Reed was a great play. The deep one to Jordan Reed, that is. Mm-hmm. And even on the 3rd down where he overthrew Deshaun Jackson, all these plays were good, well-drawn plays. We just didn't execute. So
both of those plays were on Kirk too, just bad passes.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously you're going to disagree with the calls because they didn't work out, but if you actually look at how the play developed, it was there, or how the plays developed, they were there, and it's just we didn't execute good enough to get converted.
Well, Gruden does like to throw on 3rd short far more than a lot of other coaches, though.
Well, sure, but I mean that's because it's a tendency breaker. If you're 3rd and 1, the tendency is to bring out your goal line offense and just pound it for a yard, but.
Which, by the way, we tried that in the 4th quarter and it didn't work, incidentally.
Yeah, so I mean, I tweeted in response to that. They ran it. They should have passed it. If they pass it, why didn't they run it? So it's basically you disagree with it because it
damned
didn't
if
work.
you do, damned if you don't.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I guess there's a little bit of that. I don't know. There were moments. There was at least one moment. Okay, I forget if it's the end of the 3rd quarter or early 4th quarter. I forget, but it's 4th and short. You're past the 50. You're up already. Why don't you just go for it, dude? It's 4th and short. Just go for it, dude. But he doesn't. He goes and punts it. So that's my complaint, as it ever is with Gruden, is that I think in the moments, when other coaches would really punch it, he kind of lets off the gas.
Well, and again,
it's not a huge thing. It's not a huge thing.
I kind of agreed with Gruden on that simply because
but we always have this conversation. You always agree with being cautious on that side. I'm saying
I do.
Sometimes go for it, man.
I hear you, but in this case, we had a Ravens offense that wasn't doing much. They were running the ball on us quite easily, but they weren't really their drives weren't producing first downs, and so to flip the field on them in that case and just gamble that they were going to have another drive that was going to stall was a good gamble in that case, in my opinion. So I kind of agree with the tactic, in that case. It's not like the Ravens were running up and down the field on us all the entire game.
No, but you can't let teams hang around. We were very lucky that the score, by the third quarter, never changed, after that.
We could have easily lost the game. This is another
exactly.
game.
You can't let them hang around. You cannot let them hang around. Sometimes, even if you're up, go for it. Get another score. We are not a team that can sit here and rest on a small lead.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You want to talk some defense?
I'm done. Yeah, let's do defense.
All right, defense. Let's run through some Ravens stats just to show where they ended up. Joe Flacco was 30 of 46, 210 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, had a rating of 82.7, which for him is actually good. Terrence
Not
West,
that big game he's looking
Robbie's
for.
collegiate competitor, Terrence West, was 11 carries, 95 yards, 8.6 yards per carry.
Holla.
Not enough. They should have done it much more.
Yeah, I totally agree. We'll get to that. Javoris Allen was 4 carries, 18 yards. Mike Wallace was the leading receiver for the Ravens, 7 catches, 63 yards. Dennis Pitta, the tight end, had 7 catches, 59 yards. And Steve Smith had 3 catches, 29 yards before he went out with an injury, which proved to be very, very fortunate for us that he wasn't in there more.
None of this is surprising. We can shut their receivers down, but we can't cover the tight end, and we can't stop the run. Boom.
My opening thought, I'd just like to point out that Joe Flacco is not an elite quarterback. Joe Flacco is overpaid. Joe Flacco is not the guy that Baltimore hoped they were getting when they signed him to the gigantic contract. He's not that good a quarterback. He overthrew countless balls today. I thought he looked worse than even his stats showed. He didn't throw any interceptions, so good for him. But he overthrew guys. He was off on his timing. He underthrew guys.
Who disagrees with that, though? He doesn't play well until the playoffs. Yeah, he doesn't play well until the postseason. That's it.
I think if you if you had to put the loss on any one person, I'd put it on Flacco. In terms of the Ravens' offense, who underperformed, it was Flacco.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. It wasn't a very good day for him either.
No.
But our cornerbacks did a really good job covering the Ravens receivers. It helped that Steve Smith went out with that injury.
Yeah.
But but with that aside, they locked everybody down. You didn't hear Josh Norman's name the entire game until he got injured on that one play, and then the
touchdown that wasn't
the touchdown that
game,
didn't happen. Yeah, that means he was doing a really good job of covering his guy.
Yeah, and he was covering basically a number 2, what amounted to a number 3 receiver, basically. And he's just way too good for that level of talent, and so he did lock everybody down. Obviously, it would have been a different game if Steve Smith is there. But look, you face who you face, and you perform against whoever's on the other side of the ball. At the end of the day, Josh did well. And did you guys notice that Josh knew immediately that touchdown that wasn't in the fourth quarter wasn't a touchdown? He wasn't even concerned about it. He knew that guy's left foot was out of bounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a question. Is there any ambiguity there to you guys?
No.
No.
No, he was clearly out.
Now the next play I thought there was some pass interference going on the next pass straight into the end zone, but
who was interfering on that to you? Kendall Fuller had him completely blanketed.
I thought they
was
both
making a play on the ball.
I thought there was contact between defender and receiver before the ball was there. Mm-hmm. I hate
there always
maybe
is.
I'm wrong.
Every play, dude.
Maybe I'm
Every
wrong.
Play.
I thought that was a more questionable call than the non-touchdown call. Put it that way. Just my opinion. I mean, you guys can disagree with me. It's fine.
Yeah.
Obviously.
No. Well, valid point. What else on? What else on defense here?
Well, what else on defense is the Ravens didn't run the ball nearly enough.
Yeah,
No, because they had success. Yeah, they had success when they did.
Yeah, they had success, and John Harbaugh, or whoever's the Baltimore play caller, just completely got away from what was working. It's one of those cases where they were kind of outthinking themselves, I think. Just stick to what works.
I thought Mason Foster and Will Compton actually did a pretty good job of making tackles this week.
Yeah, they were much better, weren't they?
Especially in the open field. We were playing deep and just kind of just wrapping up guys after after Flacco had to dump it off to the check down, and we made some solid tackles. That the guys didn't miss the tackles, and the guy didn't get any yards after the catch. They just met him right there and brought him down. It was good to see for once.
It was better, yeah. I mean, the very first run of the game, the long run, I think was probably Foster and Compton's worst play of the game because, Compton took a bad angle, Foster missed the tackle, and all of a sudden the guy's like 15 yards downfield. But beyond that, I thought both of them, played pretty well, like you said.
People want to say that his pass interference call was bogus. I mean, it may be, nitpicky and bogus, but it's technically is a flag. I mean,
it was pass interference. Yeah.
You can't block a guy facing him with your hands up, with your helmet in his face like that, and not turn around to make a play on the ball. If you don't, it's face guarding. It's a penalty.
Yeah, I tweeted that out for the Hogsty in our live tweeting today, and immediately took a ration of crap from Redskins fans for it. But I thought that was a pretty clear pass interference call.
You gotta be practical. You gotta see it for what it is. I mean, I'm always for
just get your head around.
Yeah, I'm always for whatever puts the Redskins in a better chance to win. But I'm also not
gotta be honest.
Biased enough to recognize the right call.
I don't know. That one was. I hear what you're saying. You know much better than I do. But he had his hands up in the air. He wasn't there wasn't a bunch of hand fighting going back and forth. He had his hands straight up in the air. He was just running forward. It's just one of those things.
Which by rule is a pass interference call. Unfortunately.
It's fair, but it's just funny to think all he had to do was slightly turn the angle of his neck, and no penalty for basically the exact same play.
Look, I mean,
it's football.
Probably 75% of the pass interference calls are ticky-tacky like that, but they are violations by the letter of the law, and, what can you say? I mean, in terms of the Ravens offense, Flacco did a pretty good job on a short passing game. He killed us all day on it, at least on the passes that he made, and not the ones that he threw into the dirt. But part of the reason he was going to the short passing game is, I think, like Robbie, you pointed out, our DBs were locking their receivers downfield pretty well, obviously, because he did look downfield.
He did
quite a bit.
Yeah.
And just incidentally, so did Kirk, by the way. If you looked at, I don't mean to backtrack, but Kirk looked downfield quite a bit and ended up not throwing the ball down. If you guys noticed. So I have a feeling once we see the All-22 film, we're going to see that the Ravens DBs probably did a pretty good job downfield too.
Yeah, not terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
So,
well, on that note, do we want to do closing thoughts before we wrap up here, guys? I mean, this was like a victory, but I don't get the sense that any of us is all that jazzed about it.
Well,
I am.
This is a pretty low energy.
I am.
Are you? Okay, good. One of us is having.
Sorry, I got a little bit of a cold coming on. I'm about to sneeze in a second, so keep talking.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't mean to pee on anybody's parade here. A win is a win. Ravens are good. The Ravens are a good team, and in the NFL, you take wins where you can get them, particularly on the road, particularly against AFC teams. The Redskins have done terrible against in recent seasons, and particularly Baltimore of any team, because Baltimore's defense really is for real. So I'll take a victory like this any day. That having been said, this is a game that really could have gone either way. It was sort of a case where it was a battle of who wanted to make the worst play last. Another game kind of like last week. Another game kind of like last week where we didn't really dominate anybody. It was a little bit of a poor game on both sides of the ball by both teams. But at the end of the day, a win is a win. We made less mistakes. We made more plays than them. We made a special teams play, and they couldn't stop it. Yeah. Yeah, two.
Will Blackman's return was
Right.
good too.
Yeah. I
Was
mean,
really
but the
good,
one that
yeah.
ended up with a touchdown,
Beautiful.
was
Beautiful.
the Crowder play, and that was the difference in the game. We made the play, they didn't. They couldn't stop him, and so we won.
Yeah.
It's just different phases of the game. Was it a perfect game? No. But
Yeah.
a win is a win.
Yeah.
I'll pretty much, corroborate your story here. I think a win's a win, and it's great. It's a happy time, but it's kind of it's just some parts of it are disheartening. You knew Terrence West was coming off a big game. He's playing really well. We can't get a stop, in the running game against anybody.
No.
No matter what we do. So, it's just distressing. We were able to shut down their receivers, but that doesn't really surprise me. I mean, look who we got back there. We should be able to do that.
Well,
What's
look who
depressing
was
is,
not there was Steve Smith.
Well, exactly, and that, and that too. That too. So it's a great thing. It's a great win, but there were flaws, major flaws, and when you have to win off the strength of a really good special teams play, that's not a great. It's not a great day. I'm not trying to piss on anyone's parade either, to use Steve's term, but sometimes you got to piss,
I said pee,
See-
not piss.
Nah, whatever.
Well, same thing. Well, my closing thoughts basically is that I'm jazzed up about it. I'm very excited about it. I may not sound like it, but mostly because I have a cold. But
fair. You're allowed.
I feel very good about this win, only because I think this team, while they may not be winning glamorously, they are finding ways to win, and that's all you can ask for in the NFL. You do what you got to do to win. Because at the end of the day, a win is a win, and we're showing that we can fight and not back down. I mean, yeah, we got stomped by the Steelers, but that was one game. I think we're really starting to kind of gain some steam, get some momentum. We've won 3 games in a row. Eagles just lost for the first time this season against the Lions.
Yep, been coming up.
Yeah, so we have a good chance to really make a statement and take over this division next week if we win that game. By the way, too, the before we wrap up here, the Cowboys are really rolling right now. I don't know if you've seen that, but
Boo.
they're currently stomping the Bengals 21-0.
Oh, that's not good for my fantasy team. Andy Dalton, I played him instead of Stafford this week. Fuck.
And they still have the second half left. It's a minute 56 left in the game as of now.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
A win is a win. We take it. Look, this is a game that a couple seasons ago would have absolutely been a loss. The Redskins used to figure out how to lose these games. When the other team, you just knew in the dark days that when the other team was driving down the field at the end of the fourth quarter, you could hang it up and you knew it was something tragic was going to happen. It was going to be a loss. That receiver, was it Williams or was it Perryman with the non-touchdown in the fourth quarter? 2 years ago, he would have gotten his foot in. It would have been a touchdown. The game was over. And it seems like, are they pretty wins? No, but it seems like we are sort of graduating to being able to eke out.
We have improved a small amount, and they have seriously regressed.
Well, we are proving we can eke out wins that we used to, count as tragic, back-breaking losses, and that is definitely progress.
You're right.
Absolute progress.
Yeah.
And maybe the other
right.
last thing, we ought to do game balls, by the way.
Yeah.
But my last point here
is,
I think we're seeing Kirk as what, and this is not a Kirk bashing thing. This is not a Kirk, Kirk, pushing him thing either. I think we're seeing sort of who Kirk actually is, and who he's going to be. We've seen the awful Kirk, which is every time before about game 8 of last year. And then we saw him go on this magical run with quarterback ratings through the roof. And we knew that anybody who was being realistic knew that wasn't going to, happen. But what we've seen here is he's had a pattern for 5 games now. He's got a quarterback rating in the high 80s. He's going to pass for a lot of yards because, the nature of our offense, we have a lot of pass plays. He's going to make some boneheaded mistakes every once in a while. He doesn't have a great arm, but he's going to execute Jay Gruden's offense pretty well. And so I think what we're seeing is the real Kirk now, which is a pretty good NFL starting quarterback who has some flaws, but is a great quarterback is a good, solid quarterback for the Jay Gruden offense. So I
we
just
have
throw
been
that out
saying,
there.
Steve, you and I have been saying that for like 2 years now, bro.
But we keep saying it because we either have the people who hate him and we have the people who think he can't do no wrong. And some Redskins fans out there, there's just no in between with Kirk Cousins, you know. But the truth of the matter, there is.
It's true.
I'm in between. I think he's you know, I think he's a guy that can make a lot of good plays, and then he's a guy that can really hurt the team with his plays.
Right.
You know,
He's serviceable.
Yeah, it averages out into a serviceable guy, you know. Yeah,
I don't
agree.
think he will end up being our quarterback of the future. I mean, he may, you know, turn it around and lead us to the promised land again like he did last season, and then maybe change my mind. But, you know, as of now, he's not doing a great job, but he's getting the job done. We're on a 3-game winning streak. We're 3-2. You know, at the end of the day, if we win, we win. So
If we go on like a deep playoff run or something, I think the team we're really getting ahead of ourselves. But I mean, if they end up in like, you know, a conference championship game or something, I think the team would have a hard time not re-signing him, even if it's due to other things and not really Kirk. You know, but absent that, I think you're right. I think he's showing that he's not really worth an elite quarterback contract. But that having been said, it's early in the year, and, you know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see indeed.
Game balls.
Game balls, okay. I feel like there's not even any mystery about it here. You start, Steve. I'll go next, Robbie.
I'm tempted to give C.J. Mosley the game ball, honestly.
Oh,
I don't know
don't
if
be a
we
douchebag.
if we you know, with an honorable mention to John Harbaugh for calling a terrible game. You know, but if I can't give the other team the game ball for giving us the game, it's a really tough one. I mean, I almost don't even really know what to say. I'm going to give Josh Norman the game ball, I think.
Wow,
Because,
I was not expecting you to go there.
well,
but
I don't see
continue.
anybody who excelled on offense, quite honestly. Jameson Crowder is the obvious, you know, choice. You know, other choice for
or
me.
Pierre.
Yeah, Pierre. I don't know. I'm going to give it to Josh because, like Robbie said, you didn't hear Josh Norman's name at all, and what that means is that he locked down his receiver all day. You know, coming back from an arm/hand injury. So I'm giving it.
Too.
Yeah, it did. I'm giving it to Josh Norman. I'm giving honorable mention to Jameson Crowder for his touchdown.
Okay. Totally fair. Yeah, I mean, but to me, I wasn't even thinking Josh Norman. I know that's terrible because I completely understand what you're saying. I mean, he locked shit down. But to me, it was definitely between Crowder and Garcon. Garcon, I mean, I think it's just great that we finally, you know, the hello, Pierre. Where the fuck have you been? That's the great thing. And then Crowder is obvious. I think we said it earlier. You know, he was the reason we won the game. So
yeah. I'm
going to have to give it to Crowder. You know, he made the difference. That was a beautiful, beautiful return. An awesome special teams victory. Not the way you want to win, but you'll definitely take it. So I'm going to give it to Crowder. All
right.
You get it, bro.
All right, for me, I'm going to give it to the Redskins D-line. I think the pressure they got on Flacco, you know, they didn't only got 3 sacks, but they got a lot of hurries, a lot of pressures, a couple of hits on him that weren't, you know, sacks after he got rid of the ball. I think that got to Flacco. I think the pressure they got on him really helped the secondary a lot, and they were the big reason why our defense was so successful today in stopping the pass. So
Nice.
I'm going to give it to the D-line.
I'd like
Nice.
to give an
Three
honorable
different
mention.
answers.
I'd like
Nice.
to give an honorable mention award, by the way, to Trent Williams. You know, because Trent was lined up over Terrell Suggs for a good bit of the day today for a lot of the plays, and you know, I thought he did a good job with the pass rush that was coming his way. So, you
Nice.
know, I'm giving an honorable mention to Trent.
There you go. All right, well, we will leave it there, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you're sticking with us throughout the week because we got Eagles coming up again. Another 1 o'clock game for you East Coasters, so we'll be representing that one soon. And also, continue. You have one more chance to submit a crazy neighbor story before we announce a winner. So you have between now and the next episode posting. When are we going to put that up, guys? What?
Well,
Thursday or something, maybe.
Well, we're probably going to record the next episode on Wednesday night. We are hoping to have a good guest on, so it depends on his recording schedule. So you may have till about Wednesday to get your crazy neighbor story in.
Yeah, so get them in. We've gotten some good ones so far. They've been really funny. They've been awesome. So please continue to do that. We love engaging with you guys. So much fun. So anyways, I'll leave it there. I'll stop talking. Thanks for being with us. We will see you next week. Take care.
See you later.
Hail.